Everybody, welcome to our session today. Today we're going to explore about the architect designing. In previous videos, we have presented about the more importance of the business analyst as being the detective for collecting the business need and the business requirements, which is modulated later on to the technical analyst who builds the technical SRS and then provides it to modulate it to the architect designing. Now, as we know, recall that the purpose of the business analyst is to build the business need, to identify what are the business need and to modulate it through a data flow diagram, through the process model. Whereas for the technical analyst, his main purpose is that he uses those technical elements, right, in order to identify the data model, that is the logical model. Moving forward, then it comes to architect. The purpose is in order to figure out the modular of the system, how it's going to look, the skeleton of the system, how it's going to be represented, how the system is going to work out, how we're going to build it. All right, that's the architect. The architect, you know that he spends about 35% of his time in building a blueprint, or we call it sometimes the wireframe, or sometimes it's called the physical design document, right? As well, the architect he contributes in telling us on whether that we need to go for custom application, whether to go for outsourcing, whether to go for packaging, or for custom after packaging. That is, I might get a ready-made application and further customization to perform on it. As well, the architect is able to tell us on the non-functional requirements. So non-functional requirements, which we recall from our previous chapters and requirement determination, right? We had discussed about the non-functional requirements, right, which are the operational. So for example, will that system operate on a mobile application using an iOS, an Android, or PhoneGap, or whether it's going to be on a handheld, or is it going to be on a desktop application operated, or whether it's going to operate in a web application, right? Looking also as well on the performance. What is the performance? The speed of recalling the query from a web page when a customer, the end user, he tries to perform a certain query on a web portal. What is the speed of recalling? It shouldn't take more than 2 seconds recalling. What about the capacity and the capability, the storage of the system of that hardware, right? Then we look on the security, the access control. Who has the access control to see what and in which time and all that? Who's have a granted privileges? Who's been revoked, right? We look on the policies and procedures, right? Whether the company can go with an outsourced company, does it have the right to work with other companies? Whether it can provide the customer with the source code, is it obliged to do so, right? So all of these are the non-functional requirements. Again, the architect also plays a very important role in telling us whether that we go for outsourcing or whether we go for building up the application, the custom application, right? And as well, the architect as well will be able to tell us, right, on the outsourcing part, right? So I might be able, I don't have the resources that are capable of doing that work, so in that case I will have to outsource it, right? Again, also the architect, he's a user friendly, he acts as if he's going to design that thing. He needs to know how the system is going to operate, the portability of it. So when you look on the system design, system design, it is about identifying the whole system, right? From the hardware, from the software requirements, from the operating system, right? Such as whether I'm going to use Unix, or I'm going to use Linux, Windows NT, right? I'm going to use Apache server, and from the database, whether I'm going to use a Postgres database, I'm going to use Oracle DB, Sybase, Informatics, Microsoft SQL, the type of database I'm going to use. So the architect is going to decide, right? The technology that's going to be used. Shall I go for .NET, right? Or whether I should go through .NET MVC, or whether should I go through Java, C Sharp, or I'm going to go through Oracle or Power Builder, right? Or JavaScripting. Again, that's back again to the architect to decide. Now there are tools that helps the architect in order to identify the pros and the cons of the design, such as we have what we call the alternative matrix. The alternative matrix, it is nothing except only it's a visibility study. It is the form of a table columns, right? So we have the evaluation criteria, right? And under evaluation criteria, what do we have is that we present the technical issues, we do present the economical issues, we do present the organizational issues. And then the subsequent column, we have the priority upon using that tool and all that. So for example, if I have the take an example, building a design frame for a web application, right, at the first stage of the project. Now, priority, if I'm going to set a priority from 10 out of 100, I would give it a 10 because I do have other priorities important for to start with the project, right, is that I need to build the database, I need to build the application, and then the design fitting after the application is produced, and then I put the design, right? So the technology, let's say I'm going to use .NET technology, right? So does that .NET technology will fulfill the requirement of designing the application? No, the answer is no, because .NET is used for the back end, right? So if I give it a score 1 out of 5, I would give it 1. So 10 multiplied, which is a priority, multiplied by the score of 1, give me a 10 points. Right, take an example, JavaScripting. It's a full stack. It can work for front end and back end, but it's mainly for front end, right? So if I will give it a scale 1 out of 5, I would give, for example, a 4, right? So 4 times 10, that gives me a 40, right? So I have from the .NET, I had 10, and now I have 40, so 40 is more than 10, right? What about if I would go for Angular 4, right? I would give it a score of 5, right? 5 times 10, that makes 50, so it's more than JavaScripting, right? Similarly, I will go for scoring for the economical value, the capital investments. Well, that's the right scores, right? Priorities and the scoring and multiplying and able to know the alternatives. Again, for the organizational issue, similarly, right? So remember always that the architect, he plays a very important role when spending on the 35% of his plan to build the blueprint, to identify the non-functional requirements, and as well to able to help us in decision making on whether we go for outsourcing, whether we go for packaging, or whether we go for a customized in-house application, or whether I purchase a ready-made application, a package solution, and I can further tailor it upon them, right? And always remember that the architect, he's the person who will be able to tell me how the system is going to build. He's going to show me the frame set of the outer system, how it's going to be built. Now, it has been a pleasure to you for the presentation today, and hope to meet you by next week. We're going to be discussing about the client-server architecture in more details, looking on the 2 tiers application and the 3 tiers application. It has been a nice moment of today, and wish you a good vacation. All that.